That's how brain freeze starts.
Welcome to the Guitar Channel. I am super happy to welcome you a new interview. I have on the other side of the Zoom connection, on the other side of the world, the one and only Zane Carney. Zane, how are you doing today?
Hey Pierre, how are you doing? It's very good to see you, man. This is very fun.
Yes, I mean, you have a gorgeous setup. It's like I am with you in your room, and my showroom looks so poor compared to your rich full image you have at the moment. So congratulations, nice setup.
Oh man, it's all smoke and mirrors. Your setup's
Okay.
nicer looking over there. I just faked it with lighting.
Okay, in fact, you're just in front of a lousy green screen, and
Yeah.
the rest is just photoshopped. Okay.
It's like Space Jam the movie. You can't I can press through it. Yeah.
Okay, it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you. I think last time we talked, I'm checking my note, it was in 2018, it was in Paris, and you were in tour with Johnny Lang, right?
That's right. Yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
venue. The venue kind of went downhill. It was a very beautiful venue. Red chairs. Maybe do you remember the name of the venue?
Yeah, it is La Cigale.
Oh, so beautiful. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And it was a great concert. So, of course, we're going to talk about the pandemic and the crazy situation you are going through at the moment. But what's up since 2018?
Man, since 2018, I've put a little more focus on my interests as a composer and as a writer and as an artist. I think at that time I was doing more touring with Johnny and Mayer and those people, but I've really put a focus this past, I guess, 2 or 3 years on compiling material that really inspires me, and then now I'm gearing up to release material finally. So it's just taken a couple of years to really clarify what I want to release.
Hmm. So, do you think jazz is your actual true calling rather than touring with guys like Johnny Lang or John Mayer?
You know, I do. Yeah, I think I do. I've always been very impassioned to make my own music, and I think that was expressed when I was younger, growing up in jazz settings. I also had different bands, as I think you and I have talked about, but improvisation has always been my favorite mode of expression, and that lends itself naturally to composition. And so I've learned these past few years that I really, really like writing music and creating it. And it's hard to do that in a hired gun setting. So yeah, I think writing music is definitely this next chapter, and releasing it. That's what I'm really excited about.
Cool. What is the impact of the pandemic on your life as a working musician?
You know, I've been so fortunate, and I've talked with my girlfriend about this quite a bit. It's been I know it's been such a challenging time for so many people, and it's been very challenging for us and our friends and family members. And yet I tried to, like what they say in America, like, you know, take lemons, turn it into lemonade. There's this phrase, you know. And so I've tried to make lemonade out of it by spending really hours, hundreds of hours, going through the compositions I had written and the recordings I had and different flavors of improvisational music I've written or songs that have vocals in them or instrumental pieces. And I spent a lot of time pouring through those things and getting clear on my vision. So I feel very lucky to have spent this time going a little more inwards and trying to hopefully emerge from it with a clear vision as an artist. So that's what I've been doing.
And how did you adapt to the situation? Because no touring, no gigs,
Right.
and everything. So what did you change?
I did a few things. I initially was asked to do a live stream concert for a venue in Los Angeles called Hotel Cafe. And it's a place where I started playing, God, it must have been 2004, somewhere around there. And I just would play with friends, and there were some crazy nights we had there. There were some gigs at Hotel Cafe. It's known as a singer-songwriter room, and yet a lot of jazz players play there. And I remember one night it was with basically most of the guys from the West Coast Get Down, which maybe, I'm not sure if you've heard of this community. It's, you know, Thundercat and Kamasi Washington and Ryan Porter and Cameron Graves. And we all went to high school together and played together. And so I remember all of us going, and may he rest in peace. I don't like talking about sad stuff, but Austin Peralta was there, and Mahesh Balasaria was there, and Zane Musa was there. May he rest in peace. And it was just, you know, this is a venue that really attracted people. And currently, there's a friend of mine named Donald Barrett, who's a drummer who plays gigs there. So this venue is very important to us in Los Angeles. And in April, they said, "Hey, we'd love to have you do a live stream concert." And so I thought, well, okay, what do I need for that? I need a camera like we have here, and I guess I should get some lighting. And so I spent hours online because a lot of us were just scared about the pandemic in March of 2020 in April. So I had hours to myself. Okay, what's lighting? Oh, wow. Aperture, that's important. Okay, what's shutter speed? Oh, shutter speed seems important. All right. I'm telling you, Pierre, I spent a good 2 weeks straight, probably 12 to 16 hours a day researching my setup. So I did the concert. And it was really fun. And then I realized I want to do concerts right now. I mean, I want to work on my solo material, especially my jazz material. But I also want to do concerts during this time because, as you said, we're not touring anymore. So this setup lent itself to different venues finding out I had this setup. And I did concerts for Knitting Factory live on Twitch. And then I discovered Twitch is a really good platform for concerts and for sort of what I've been doing on there at times, which is sort of concerts meets educational programming. So I've found a way to really I mean, I've been beyond fortunate to have this time turn into a positive for me. I know it's not been a positive for most people, but I've just been trying to do my part by staying home and quarantining, and hopefully providing comfort to people who are also quarantining through live stream concerts. So yeah, that's what I started doing during the quarantine that I hadn't done before.
And are you able to do live stream as is it for you first and foremost a promotional tool, or are you able to make money out of it? I don't know, through Twitch and stuff like that, or even a paid live stream concert?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm actually doing a live stream for Sam Ash soon. I'm not sure when this interview goes live, but so it may have already happened. But so Sam Ash, I'm partnering with them and with Universal Audio. They have a device called the Oxbox, which maybe we'll talk about. And so we're talking about solutions for live streaming in 2021, especially on a Mac computer. So we're doing this live stream with them to discuss really everything I can think of that I've done live streaming this past 10 months. And part of that is monetization. Part of that is finding a way, if you're transitioning from being a hired gun into this space, what can you do that's unique and that's special that people will say, hey, I'll throw you some money. And I think most musicians on these platforms are essentially buskers. So they, when a busker goes out and has their guitar case open, what we've done on my streams is different than that. So we've had a bit more of there's a focus on making the music understandable, and it really is educational programming, but also music performance. So instead of people saying, hey, good song you just played, here's $2, we have different packages, sort of like modules. So when I come on stream, someone might say, hey, I want to see you do a live song composition, and I'll give you the key I want it in, I'll give you the title of the song, I'll give you what mode I want you to solo in, and here's $250, and I want to see you write a song in an hour and a half. And I go, okay, here's my information. And then I do it, and I explain what I'm doing harmonically, and how composition works on a guitar, and how orchestration works on a guitar. And so it's a really fun interactive thing that we're doing on my streams that I'd like to express that in this live stream I have coming up for Sam Ash, to help musicians like myself who might be at home the next year. How can we do something creative and exciting for an audience that feels artistic, feels like it has integrity, doesn't just feel like busking? And so I think I've been lucky to discover a way to do that.
And are you doing this through platform like Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, or through a website where people actually subscribe for a monthly fee? Because we can see the two kind of platforms kind of emerging at the moment. So
I totally
what would be
agree.
your recommendation?
I'm personally on Twitch right now because when the pandemic started, I did, the Hotel Cafe show, I did the Knitting Factory show, and then that led into Twitch Music taking note of me. And so they partnered me and they put me on the front page. And so I'm definitely focused on Twitch, but I've also been using other platforms. I've been using a platform called Veeps that my former manager created and just sold to Live Nation. It's a live streaming platform just like Twitch, but instead of going on and doing a concert, as I've seen many musicians do, for an hour and a half and hoping people feel generous. Veeps is a ticketed platform, so it's the same thing as Twitch. There's a chat, it's interactive, and yet I show up knowing that I am being valued as an artist by the audience, and so I know they want me there, and that's a different experience that I think is tough for musicians in this era. This brief period we have of lockdown, it's challenging to make music and sometimes feel like maybe people aren't valuing it. Maybe a troll comes in, you suck, or maybe someone else who's trying to be helpful comes in, your mic's too quiet. And I think, well, if I was at La Cigale, rarely would an audience member say, your guitar solo has too much slap back. Like no one's gonna shout.
Very true, so true, yeah.
Yeah, so what I like about something like Veeps or some private ticketed platform like that is there's still a chat, still interactive, and yet the people there are there because they're honoring and respecting your craft and artistry.
Interesting.
So I've found different platforms. I'm also I have a Patreon. Finally, I just got a Patreon 2 months ago, and it's full of content, and a lot of it is sort of this composition. I do film scoring as well. I have a film scoring partnership with my friend Tommy King, and so there are elements of kind of peeling back the layer of, okay, so here's how the process looks for those who are curious. So yeah, Patreon, Veeps, Twitch, I've found different ways to stay active and engaged while spending most of my off time, like off stream, working on my recordings and getting things ready, like this new album, Alter Ego. So there are a few different things I'm exploring.
Good. Well, good, and it's good to see you so active in so many different platforms, because I think basically that's the way to go, especially now because of the pandemic. But it is also some great tool to be sure to work on, because eventually, hopefully, you will be back on the road and so on. But still, it's a good way to monetize how you work and to find a good way to make it work. So good for you.
Thank you.
Excellent. And when you do stream, is that always from your very nice space that we see here, or are you actually also playing with some other players?
Yeah. So we've done a few things. So there's an interesting thing that I wonder if the viewers and listeners will have researched already. So because in March and April, everything shut down, and because I was spending so much time researching cameras and lighting and all this, I also was researching how to jam with people live. How is it possible? And I am not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do love science. I pretty much every night I go to bed listening to some sort of astrophysics podcast, or I just love these things. Okay. And what I discovered, and there's a musician named Dan Tepfer who speaks brilliantly about this, very clearly about this, but I discovered this about 2 weeks before I stumbled onto his explanation. What I learned is this: the speed of light, as fast as it is, can only travel around planet Earth 7.5 times a second. And what that means is there's going to be about 120 to 175 milliseconds of time it takes to pass around the Earth. So I started thinking, well, what if I wanted to jam with someone in Tokyo? It's about halfway around the world. What if I had a perfect internet cable, like a perfect electric cable, and it went straight there in a curved line around Earth? How long would it take for the signal to get from me to them? It would take about 100 milliseconds, maybe 75.
Which is a lot.
Way too much to jam. You can't jam.
Yeah.
So I spent the first week or two of quarantine thinking, whoever invents this is going to make so much money. I realized whoever invents the ability to jam across the globe will not make a lot of money. They will probably destroy the universe, because they will have figured out how to travel back in time. So, because that's the only way you can do it. Time goes at the speed of light. So it's been challenging to jam with people. What Dan Tepfer explored and has solved for himself, I haven't explored this yet, is an app called Jack Trip Audio. It only works if you're in your city within about a 40-mile radius. But you both have to use this app, and you get about 10 to 20 milliseconds of latency, which is just enough to where you can play. So he's done that. I want to get into that soon. What I did recently on Twitch, though, is I did a live, it's called a collab on Twitch, live collab. And it was my good friend Don Palambi Music, who's a great jazz drummer. He performed, and I brought his stream into my camera setup. So he was here, I was here, and I listened to him, and he was improvising by himself with no audio, and I was playing along. And we were both doing some pretty crazy jazz stuff. So during my portion of that concert, that's concert stream, you heard me reacting in real time to what he was playing and improvising around it. and then we
But
switched.
he was not listening to you. He was not hearing you.
So it was like half jazz, you know, because jazz is about a true conversation. This was, you know, kind of him. It was like what people are doing on TikTok, where they give acting lines and then you respond. They can't hear your response, but they created the space for you. So he was doing that intuitively, and then we did the opposite. I played by myself, and he jammed over me. So we've done some of that on Twitch, and surprisingly, that gets people really pumped, because people are starving for live music right now, and it feels to them like it's live. So yeah,
and it is kind of live, even though there is this kind of strange interaction. Okay,
right.
Very cool.
So we're doing a few different creative things. I've also found that now is a time to go more into this conversational music. Conversation. There's a guy on Twitch named Destiny who has these composition challenges, and he knows that I'm a jazz composer, and he just, you know, and a film composer. He's like, hey man, you know, come on in, analyze these recordings. So he'll send me games, and I'll listen to a Final Fantasy track, and I'll explain to him what's happening emotionally in the song without having seen the game. I'll say the composer's using Lydian, usually Lydian or Lydian augmented modes. Usually those are used when something is magical and mystical and otherworldly. It can also be when someone's surprised and sneaking around a corner. He said, dude, that's so crazy. This scene is a girl who's like an elf and she's sneaking around the corner. I said, yeah, that's the melody was expressing that. So I've been using this time, if it can't be performative, you know, this way, it can be performative for the audience, where we can help them learn more about this great mystery that is music theory. So I've found collaborations like that to be helpful. You can't jam like a jazz conversation, but you can have a musical conversation with English language, or any language. So yeah, man, I've just tried to stay creative during this time and find new ways to connect, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really so great to be able to talk to you, because I remember when I organized with you a masterclass in Paris a couple of years ago, and people were really into what you were saying, and you were both singing and playing the guitar and sharing your view on music, and I really find again that you know that fire in what you're saying. So it's always a pleasure to have this kind of interaction. All right, let's move to the big subject, alter ego. So I think you played the little bit of what you did at the introduction was the very beginning of the very first song of the record, right?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. Alter ego. Man, I'm so excited about people hearing this album. I really, really am. Yeah. Yeah. So
what was the idea behind this?
So the idea behind this was I wanted to get Gene Coy, who plays drums on the record, Jerry Watts Jr., who plays bass and uke bass, and Katisse Buckingham, who plays woodwinds, so alto flute, sax. I wanted to get these guys together with me. You know, I guess I'm Zane, whatever. I wanted the four of us to get together in a studio where we were essentially taking the new... it's really West Coast jazz vibe, but then putting it on a vintage analog recording. Because what I've heard a lot of in LA is people taking this bombastic West Coast thing, which not most of the world knows about. You know, people know, when they think jazz, they think New York City, Chicago, you know, they don't think LA as much. And the funny thing is, when I grew up, I went to Hamilton High School. You know, I literally grew up with Kamasi Washington, who was like my brother and us were all friends, and we did gigs all the time together. And that whole scene, they call it the West Coast Get Down. You know, I was the guitar player during this time, you know, in LA, playing all these gigs with everyone, and they did such an amazing job. You know, Thundercat releasing his music and Kamasi releasing his music, but there's still an element of LA jazz, really just straight up jazz, that has pretty much only been recorded in settings that are very pristine. And I wanted to record it vintage, 2-tape with, you know, I think the newest microphone in the recording was maybe 1955. I wanted to combine the recording techniques of Miles Davis's Kind of Blue with the crazy, weird, ferocious LA jazz thing that people haven't really heard much of. So that was the initial vision, and then it turned into something much more spontaneous than I could have imagined once we showed up in the studio.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible for you to illustrate what's different between New York jazz and LA jazz?
Sure, yeah. So
can you play something in New York style and in LA style?
Yeah, so in New York style would kind of be this Joe Pass type thing. Now I'm playing solo guitar right now, so this might be a little bit hard to really hear, but maybe something like, let's get some tone. First off, I'm going to roll down my tone. That's the beginning, in my opinion, of sort of the New York jazz approach. It's very even. So instead of having this kind of, having that, it's going to be more that. So like, in fact, let me take off my slapback too. Let me make it really New York jazz. No gain stage.
I told you, too much slapback.
Too much slapback, exactly. So something like this, Now this is older world New York jazz. I'm talking, this is like 1960s or 50s. And most people think of this era when they think of jazz. Now the current modern jazz is much, I'm distorting a bit. The current modern era jazz is a lot of this kind of stuff in my experience. A lot of open-ended. And I'm just making up something right now. So it's very elegant, And there'll be some crazy melody, all right? And it's usually in odd meters and all that. That's my experience. I'm totally generalizing right now because there's some crazy, ferocious New York jazz. But I think in general, I'm speaking less as someone who's trying to reduce New York jazz, but more as someone who might be trying to help explain it to someone who's not. Maybe they've listened to jazz and they think that's what jazz sounds like only. But that's actually a beautiful, elegant, wonderful expression that I love. Most of the stuff I listen to is that sort of jazz. What ends up happening in LA is people make a few shifts. So for me, I might put on a slapback. I might have my tone knob all the way up. And I might have exactly, my actual tone. And I might have an aggressive harmonic palette. So instead of maybe minor 11 chords and whole tone moments and sort of, windingness, there's a different type of elegance in my experience in West Coast jazz. It's the vocabulary is similar, but it might sound something like this. So we have this song called Brain Freeze on Alter Ego. And as you can tell from this, we're using triads, which a lot of modern jazz uses, but we're putting them in a different place. So we're going... So you heard that whole intro when I started this interview. Well, we're soloing over those changes. So if I can kind of loop this for you, the Brain Freeze changes are basically... So I'm basically soloing over that, which sounds sort of medieval. So already I think we're sort of subverting jazz norms in West Coast jazz. This is my experience. But it's not really fusion because these changes could be very elegant, and I'll prove it right now. So when I'm soloing over this, I might go... So all that harmony was really out there. I mean, and that is a jazz thing, but my guitar was bright. And then when I'm soloing, for a moment I might be in melodic minor, and then I might go to whole tone. So we are using jazz conversational elements, but we're not saying it has to be swing, right? So I might go... So there are elements of chromaticism, of Charlie Parkerisms in there, but it's on a telly, and the guitar is bright, and it's not fusion. So long story short, I grew up in the LA jazz scene. I grew up with all the people we've mentioned before, and we all just had a blast playing together and stretching stuff as far as we could. And what I wanted to do with Alter Ego is release a record that's really pure LA jazz versus... Okay. Maybe I could sing over it and write songs over it. That's fun too, but I'd rather give people an experience of like the true 3 a.m. It's late. We're at Teddy's. We're at Guys. We're at the world stage. And we're kind of cooking at 3 a.m. What does that feel like? And so my vision on this record with Alter Ego was, well, let me capture that in a way that will put it in its best lighting, like what we're doing here visually. Like, I want to really light this, because if I recorded this on an M box, like a 2004 M box with, a bunch of like dynamic mics, it would sound cool. But what if we recorded this modern, odd approach in sort of a New York sense? We record it that way, but we're playing different harmonies. So it was a really fun record to make, man. It was fun to see what happened, because the way we were playing is different than what you're normally supposed to play into these, large diaphragm $20,000 mics. So it was just a really, really fun process.
Mm-hmm. And how did you prepare for it? Did you had all the song written and everything, and you gave every musician its part? Or how did you work on that?
Normally, I would do that. I did that on Amalgam, and I've done that in other settings. For this, I was so excited about the vision, which was to really capture this bombastic insanity. The word that keeps coming to mind when I think of LA jazz is it's ferocious. There's so much passion and an urgency. Maybe in some ways not dissimilar to someone like Ornette Coleman. There's this, what can we explore? What is here? And all jazz musicians have that. I'm not saying New York totally has that, but it sounds different in LA for some reason. And so anyway, to get to that, I thought, all right, I could come in with a bunch of tunes, but that might bloat the process. Because if I come in with, here's the chart, well, now our brain is in reading and thinking. I thought, no, man, I want to capture this spirit. I really think there's something special here. And I think a lot of people in the world haven't really heard this approach. And I want to explore it. So I came with a few ideas and didn't really bring them fully in until the last day of the session. We did 3 days. So mostly what I did was I brought in sketches, and then I wanted to ask Gene and Jerry, hey, I have this, I have an idea of a melody, but what do you hear? And Katis would go, how about this? I'd say, awesome, I love that, let's record. And so almost every single track on the album is the first take of a song we had just written 5 to 10 minutes before we recorded. And we sort of all laughed at each other, like, I don't know, let's go. And literal tape was running. We recorded this straight to tape. And all right, let's go. And then we played, and we oftentimes didn't have even a structure of if there was going to be a B section or where it would go. Now, on Brain Freeze, the first single from Alter Ego, we did have a structure, but most of the songs there was no structure, and we wanted to see what would happen, because that's what happens when we're doing these live gigs at 2 a.m. We don't know. I might be, the song we're playing might be. Might be the changes that's written on our chart when we're doing our gigs in LA, but what that usually turns into, Pierre, is like, so I might be doing this, and I can already look at Jerry and see him go, and we feel that, like, yeah, that might happen. What if it's, and then I just change the chords because I could feel his bass movement going up a third. I don't know why, but I could feel that, and then we look at each other when those moments happen, and we're so excited to feel seen and known, and to know that we have this sort of ESP. So the only way to capture that was to make sure the songs were not fully written. I really wanted people to hear that. So on a song like Ego on the record, or a song like Lost, you really hear this sort of like, they just went major. And you can feel, I think, on the recording, that was not written. That was them looking in each other's eyes, hearing what Katis was doing, and saying, we going major? Let's go. So, it was just so fun to make this record. I just had such a blast doing it.
So everything is live, and there is no re-recording after the fact?
There was only one. So the song Alter, I did want to add a melody to that. So there weren't any edits. We didn't like say, oh, we're going to fix this section or take that solo and then comp this solo. There wasn't any of that. So it really was a true jazz recording in that sense. But because the recording was done so like, bam, we're just going for it. The song Alter, I realized I love what we did on this song. I love how we're improvising. I want to have a melody in this first spot. So I added a guitar melody to that. And then on Pitchfork, which I'm really excited about that song, I also added a melody to that. Because we had explored rapping. We were exploring so much. Like, should we have some raps on this? Should there be a flute melody? Should there be no melody? Should this just be space? So I added guitar melodies to 2 spots. But even those guitar melodies were not edited. I think what was really important to me on this album was, even if we were going to, add a compositional element after the fact, after seeing what the song did to us, I still wanted to make sure there were imperfections on the album, so it felt like a live performance,
Mm-hmm. So everybody was in the same studio and looking with eye contact with each other, and
yeah, except for the saxophone. We had him in a different room for bleeding purposes, to make sure the mix was amenable. But drums, bass and guitar. I remember telling the recording engineer, I discussed with him because he also co-produced the record, Chris Rondinella. But we discussed it, and I said, should we be in different rooms? I mean, I know that'll be easier to mix, but I don't want to. I want to be with the guys. I want to hear them in the room, because that's going to give us the best chance of recreating what has rarely been documented in this late night LA jazz scene. I want to really, really capture that spirit. And Chris said, all right, well, you have to be in the same room, and good luck with the mix. So thankfully we got lucky with the mix. But yeah, Gene was sitting to my left, Jerry was sitting to my right. I was in the center with my really, really unique one-off Sigmund amp. And yeah, man, dude, we had some crazy mics in that studio, Pierre. I don't even know the names of all of them. I should know. But we had some man, Chris Rondinella has quite the mic collection. So that room was full with just like, oh man, nice mics.
Yeah, and the sound of the album is really great. As you say, and you use that adjective a couple of times, it is really ferocious, and it feels, when you listen to the album, that you are in the middle of the band and you never know what's going to happen next. So
Right.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, and great guitar sound all across the record. So did you use that blue Telecaster?
Yep, I only use two
Yeah.
guitars on the record. I use this blue Telecaster, which is kind of my main squeeze for people who've seen me play with Johnny Lang or May or Carney. And then I used my blue Gibson 335 for one song on the album. I think,
Okay.
yeah, just one song. And that was the song Things You Aren't, which is an homage to All the Things You Are. I was just playing over those changes and wanted to explore that harmony. But yeah, so only two guitars, and then I use my pedal board, which you can't see on camera, but it's an 18 pedal board that's
Okay.
pretty dialed into yeah, what I'm inspired by, and then I played that pedal board through a Sigmund Sound King, which is his sort of top level vintage amp. It's very sad to say this, but Chris actually passed away in September of last year, and there still is information coming out around that. But I was so lucky to work with him, and I bought 6 of his amps. I always bought his stuff. I never did an endorsement with him. I mean, I guess I was endorsed because people knew I played them, but I always bought his stuff because I just love what he was doing. And the amp we played through on this record is really cool. So I know that most guitar players know about KT66 tubes or EL84s or tongue
Yeah,
saw.
sure.
The tubes in this amp are 300B tubes, which are basically used in old 1920s televisions. Okay. And Chris said, "Hey, I'm making this new amp. It's called the Sound King, and has 300B tubes." I'm like, I don't think I've ever even heard of those. It's like, yeah, they're very dangerous. Do not touch them. They connect at the top. They are for old televisions. Some people use them for amplification, very rarely. And I looked at the back of the amp. I'm like, what are these? Just be careful. Do not touch them. And then the speaker was a field coil speaker, and it's a 15-inch speaker. So It was a very unique amp, and we recorded it with a really nice vintage U67 and a really nice Royer R121, and then we had a room mic, an AKG, a KU3A, I think was our room mic. So it was a really vintage, special, 20-watt amp recorded with these really special mics going straight to tape. So it was a really fun process to record this.
And is that what you are playing at the moment, or
This is the
you
guitar
are
I'm
playing with
playing.
another? But the amp.
No, right now I'm playing with a different Sigmund. I'm playing with the Sigmund Midnight Blues, which this actual head I'm playing through is the one I used on tour with John Mayer. Because on his tour, I had like a stereo setup. So one was a cleaner amp for songs like Vultures, and then one was a dirtier amp for songs like Edge of Desire. So yeah, I'm using that head, the blonde Sigmund Midnight Blues. It's about a 22-watt head with KT66 tubes. Has a master volume, which is kind of rare on older amps, older sounding, older world amps. It's all hand-wired. Yeah, and then I'm using this pedal board that I used on Alter Ego. Yeah.
And so, what kind of pedals did you use mostly on the record?
Man.
Because was it most of the gain is coming from the pedal, then not really from the amp?
Believe it or not, most of the gain was coming from that Sound King because it's such a low wattage amp. So just turning it on loud enough to play over the drums and bass in the room was giving it a little bit of gain. I had a couple of different gain stages on that specific board when we recorded Alter Ego, but all these effects units were on here. So I have my Maxon 8999, which I use as a slapback. That was on for most of the record. That just gives dimensionality, and that's kind of the sound that I've used with the John DeVersa Big Band, which, by the way, Gene Coy and Jerry Watts, both Grammy winners for playing with the John DeVersa Big Band, we all play in the John DeVersa Big Band together, all of us. And part of this was we've done so many gigs with John with this sound setup that I have. And I was like, dude, we got to capture this. We got to capture this, just the three of us. And we got to bring Katis in. We got to do this. So that slapback's been on the John DeVersa stuff that I play on my solo music and on my jazz stuff. I'd say that pedal's on 80% of the time when I'm playing. Then I have a deluxe Memory Man, a vintage one, a vintage Pog, not the Pog 2, the vintage one, a Super Duper 2-in-1 by Zvex, HAO Rumble Mod I used a bit on the record, a Nick Nitro Fuzz, which I didn't use on Alter Ego, a Reza Fratzitz, Boss Vibrato, a vintage one, a Mel 9, which I use on a song called Minority on the record, a Univi by JHS called The Unicorn, a Flint, a Freeze pedal, a Wampler Tumnus, Keeley Compressor Pro, and then another 8999 for swells, which I use on the intro of Brain Freeze. So when I do swells, oh, that's not a very good setting, but it takes over. You can hear it taking over, so after I volume pedal, it's after. But probably the most important pedal on this board is the Pitchfork, which I used to write the song Pitchfork, which is on Alter Ego. And so I have this, yeah.
What's the Pitchfork?
Pitchfork is a pitch shifter that does, let's see if I can put it in dual mode, that does this sort of thing. Okay, does this sort of thing. Now what I'm playing is this. But when I add the pedal, it adds fourths above and then an octave below that. So if I play an E, it does E, A, A. So I play E, here E, A, A. So when you start adding chords, you get major ninth chords. If you play a minor triad, you get a minor ninth. So long story short, Pitchfork, the song, was written from me going. And I actually came up with this groove with my friend who co-wrote the song. I'm not sure, are you familiar with the band Foster the People?
No, I should.
Amazing band. They had a song called Pumped Up Kicks that a lot of people know about, and a bunch of other huge songs. He's just, Mark Foster, who writes the songs in that band, is just such an amazing songwriter. And we were writing this song together, potentially to sing over. And then I texted him and said, yo, man, that Pitchfork thing, this groove, the band's really enjoying this, and we're recording today. I'm going to record this as a jazz piece, and we're going to write a melody. He's like, yeah, great. Sounds good, man. So, part of the fun of this record is taking sketches and ideas and then just, pilfering them, or not pilfering, handing them out to Gene and Jerry and Katis and saying, are you inspired? Is this something that at 2 a.m. at a jazz club you would have fun shedding over? Yeah. Record, let's do it. And then we just started recording. But yeah, this pedal, this song only really works if I have this pedal on. So, and that's the B section of the song. So yeah, it's a really, really special, necessary pedal. I'll be buying 3 or 4 more probably, so I can make sure I can play this song.
It has to be digital, right? Because it tracks so well. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And it's amazing too. I even solo with it. Oh. And actually, I remember I had a jazz friend over, a guitarist, a really amazing jazz guitarist, come over, and I played Giant Steps for him through this, and he was going, "Whoa, more guys should be using that in a jazz setting." And so now, finally, we are on Alter Ego. But I'll play Giant Steps with this, and it's crazy if you use the right voicings. You get the idea. It's just like, what? Is that an organ? Is that a guitar player? Who is that? Mm-hmm. So I love using this pedal in a jazz setting. So we had to get this sound on the record. And that, again, that's part of the energy of this record. It was in some ways lighthearted. Like, yeah, no judgment. Roll the tape, literally, and just have some fun. But what I was hoping to get out of this album, I think what Gene and Jerry and Katis and I, all of us were hoping to get out of this, was capturing a snapshot of what we do. And I'm really proud to say I think we did it. I'm I'm really, yeah, I love those guys. They're just some of my favorite people to play with. So it's just fun to finally have a document of it. Because for the past 10 years, most people know of me through the John Mayer or the, Johnny Lang or Carney or I don't know what people know me from. But what I think what people might discover through this is that throughout this whole time, because I hadn't recorded and captured this, I guess people didn't know it existed. And I want people to know about how fun it is to play with Gene and Jerry and Katis. I wanted people to hear this, and now people finally can. So it's pretty exciting.
So let's say that the pandemic is over, everybody has a vaccine and so on. So the idea is to tour behind with this album with the same quartet? Yeah,
absolutely. And especially because I think in Europe and in Japan, where I've played quite a bit of, even Australia, there's some really generous festivals that love having jazz music. So I could see this outfit going on the road as soon as we're allowed to. So I'd be excited about doing a Montreux Jazz Festival, or excited about doing something in Japan, a residency at Blue Note, or we have a lot of different ideas of how we'd like to do this. I think for now, I'll probably have to do a solo guitar performance of the record on release day on April 30th, and just, hey, here's how the record goes. Without the whole point of the record is the conversation between Gene, Jerry, Katis, and me. So, but at least I can show people, let's celebrate. But we do have plans of doing an album release live stream in LA. So we're in talks about that and figuring that part out too. But man, once that world opens back up, I'll be back out there, and then I'll bring this new camera equipment I acquired during the quarantine, and I'll be doing behind the scenes stuff from venues, and I'll be...
Yeah, that would be cool, yeah.
I might even find a deal with certain venues and say, hey, listen, I want to live stream this as well, and it's not going to harm your business. People are going to always come to buy a ticket, but I want to have a camera on stage with my microphone. So I'm probably going to have a mobile streaming live setup moving forward on tour.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's great. What about it is early mid-February when we are recording this. What are the other projects you want to push forward in 2021?
I think I'm so laser focused on this album and really staking a position in the jazz world. So I'm really mostly excited about this, about Alter Ego and all that, and probably even recording another album when it's safe enough with the same group, and then doing a follow-up album. But as you know from me, you know that I sing as well, and you know that my composition goes outside of the jazz world. And for the listeners here, I think you said this to me. Someone at that clinic that you set up said this, like, "Oh, you remind me of Jeff Buckley," which I've learned he's like a massive icon in France, which I didn't know.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. So my singer-songwriter stuff basically takes this jazz spirit, and then I write over that. So I have a song called Ever After that I'm planning on releasing later this year. Ever After really takes this idea from Brain Freeze, major triads being moved around and manipulated and sort of taken out of context on purpose, and it does it in a different way. It does it like this. I don't believe in ever after. Isn't what I want all that matters. You get the idea. I mean, I won't show the whole song, but so I'm going to take my jazz stuff, the stuff that I love, and I'm writing music. I've already written it. That's over those changes with melodies and lyrics that I feel drawn towards. And so I'll probably be releasing some music like that, I don't know, maybe a month or two after Alter Ego comes out. And then we'll just be peppering that maybe once every 2 weeks to a month. Because I have about 5 or 6 songs that are pretty much ready to be released in that sphere. But yeah, we'll see how the year goes, though. First, we'll see how people respond to Alter Ego, the Zane Carney Quartet record, and then we'll kind of go from there. But there's no shortage of avenues I'd like to explore. I'm trying, I think, to be more focused now than I have been, really being clear. And I think releasing Alter Ego is the first step in that process.
Mhm. And how do you place yourself among, I don't know, other jazz guitar players, like, the young generation, such as the Jonathan Kreisberg, Gilad Excelman, Mike
Right.
Moreno, people like that. So are you in the same vein, or are you too blues for them? And
Hmm.
especially, I'm mixing up a lot of questions here, but
Yeah,
are
no.
you too blues for some jazz festival or too jazz for some blues festival?
Interesting.
You shouldn't be singing because you are a jazz guitar player,
Right.
so all
Right.
that stuff.
Well, first off, Gilad, I love Gilad. He and I are friends, and we did a shed session a year and a half ago in New York City. We just, hey man, are you around? Yeah, I'm around. Let's shed. And we practiced and played for about 2 or 3 hours. I love Gilad's playing so much. I think there's space um, for many voices in the improvisational settings. I would liken it to improvised comedy. There's stand-up comedy, then there's long-form improv comedy, then there's musical improv. There's all these different genres of improvised comedy, and really stand-up isn't usually improvised. Sometimes it is. But there are different formats for that. I think in the improvised music realm, which I call the jazz realm, but really it's so expansive, I think there's room for everything. John Scofield sounds too funky to some people, and then to
Mm,
other people he sounds too jazzy. And then
yeah.
Pat Metheny might sound too clean to some people, and then a pop listener hears this chord that he plays, and they're like, he's too weird. So I think the jazz community is surprisingly welcoming of all different shapes and sizes, as long as you've put in the time and work to care about the craft, to understand the language, to be in a band setting where when something shifts, you understand it's shifting. And if you make a decision to not shift, it's because you know what you're doing. I think there's room in the jazz community for everyone, as long as we're speaking a similar language, which is, understanding the foundation of our shared musical language. So, yeah, I mean, I've been so lucky. My friend Near Felder has had an amazing year
Yeah.
with his album. I love Near's playing, and we're friends. We met surprisingly playing on a Broadway show back in the day on Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. Near's one of my favorite players. Gilad's one of my favorite players. Jonathan Kreisberg's one of my dude. Jonathan can burn, man. Wow. So I think different people have different skills. Charlie Parker, crazy bebop. Oh my gosh, and his tone was also so beautiful. But there are some recordings, of Cannonball Adderley where I go, oh, his tone is just so rich and buttery. Wow, he really focused on tone. And then I'll hear Charlie going up tempo, and I go, wow, Charlie's so fiery. He really focused on that. Well, for me, my focus is on bringing. I wouldn't say I'm consciously doing this, but I really love tone. I love exploring this to this to this, like I'm really, I love exploring different tones, and I like bringing that into the jazz conversation. Because a lot of jazz guys, I think they have a guitar they love and a tone they love, and that's known as their sound.
Yeah.
Whereas I come from more of the Johnny Greenwood approach. I love different colors and palettes. Um, so yeah, I'd say I think there's a good chance that what you're saying is true, that a jazz festival say you're too bluesy, and the blues festival say you're too jazzy. But I like that because I'm not looking to do that. I'm not looking to be different. I'm just looking to express what I feel in a truthful way, and it happens to come out that way. And to me, it ends up accidentally becoming a positive because people will say, "Oh, I know when it's a Zane recording." It's like, all right, great. If I don't fit in, then that's cool that maybe people can recognize what I'm doing. But I can tell you this much: I definitely, now that things are clearer for me, and I'm really on this much more clear artist path and excited about it, and thankfully, people are finding out about it, and people are listening to the single Brain Freeze, and they'll hopefully be listening to the album. I think more collaborations are in the future of, finally, as a band leader, collaborating with people like Gilad. I mean, some people don't know this, but I played on Thundercat's album, Drunk, and when people find that out, they go, "What? I thought you were the John Mayer." I'm like, "No, we all grew up together. Steven and Ronald are two of my favorite people in the world, and we've played, I can't even count how many gigs we played together." So, like, what I like is this album, I think Alter Ego is going to maybe create a conversation where in the jazz world I can say, "All right, great, let's do a collaboration. I'd like to do a duet record with Jonathan Kreisberg. Maybe I could reach out and, hey man, want to do a duet record? Maybe Near and I can do a duet record. You know, I mean, I think there's so many possibilities, and I would love to explore all of those things.
Excellent. Then it was really awesome to be able to have you on the show. Hopefully next time we'll meet, I will be in Los Angeles or you will be in Paris, sitting right next to me at the showroom. So if people wants to see what's your latest news, where they should go on the internet to maybe buy ticket for your next stream and so on. Yes,
I'd say that probably the two best places right now, or maybe three best I should say, are my website, zanecarney.com. That usually has up-to-date information. And if you wanted to interact with me more, it would be on Instagram, instagram.com/zanecarney, or on Twitch, twitch.com/zanecarney. We're streaming in February every day this month to sort of just celebrate the announcement of this Alter Ego album. And so I think those two things. And if you wanted to get... no, that's everything. Yeah, the website, my Instagram, and Twitch, I think are the best places to connect with me. So come on down. The water's real nice.
Can you take us out with some couple of your beautiful notes before we say goodbye?
Yeah, man. Let's explore this pitchfork more. Let's see what happens. I mean, I haven't played this pedal as much as I should. Let's do a little bit of this. Wow, I haven't played this pedal in a while. That's not what I meant to do. Jazz.
That's for the blooper section.
Exactly. I forgot I still had the pedal on. Because I had a melody in my mind, which was, the melody was... I meant to do that, but the pedal's on, so it goes... Anyway, here we go. I don't know. I'm just messing around because I love that pedal.
Best outro ever, Zane. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pierre. It's so nice to talk to you, man. I look forward to catching up with you more and seeing you in person very soon, I hope.
All right. Let's cross finger and we'll do it hopefully in a not so distant future. Thank you very much again for your time, Zane.
Thank you, Pierre.
Bye-bye. Pour le prix d'un magazine, abonnez-vous à la chaîne Guitare pour accéder aux vidéos intégrales. For the price of a magazine, subscribe to The Guitar Channel to access the full videos.